Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to the inaugural episode of the Business of Your Mind live stream. Yes, you have to do it like that because we're going to get into some serious stuff. So I want everybody that's watching, let's do this again. The Business of Your Mind live stream and podcast. Um, just want to thank everybody that's tuning in. The whole purpose of me doing this is because for years people have asked me, why don't I blog? How come I don't have a podcast? And I just didn't feel it, but now is the time. And you might ask yourself, why is now the time? Well, with everything going on in the world, everything that has transpired in my life, friends and family, people that are reaching out to me, clients, now is the time for us to all, while the world is resetting itself, to take a step back and deal with the business of our mind. And what I mean by that is that your mind itself is a business. It leads you to make decisions that, whether it's a limiting belief or whether it's you thinking that you're not good enough or just things that you fail to realize are holding you back subconsciously, are things that I've also gone through. And a lot of people know me as a healthcare consultant, as a financial strategist, and also knowing me on multiple fronts, um, as a coach, a mindset coach, a business coach, but most importantly, I believe in people. And one of the things that I want to do and accomplish within this live stream, and this is the first of many, is for me to be extremely transparent and helping you through my experiences and those of my guests that we will have on future episodes, allowing you to realize that anything I have done, anything any man or woman on this planet has ever done, you're capable of doing yourself. And one of the things that, even with all the accolades that I've received, in 2017, as many of you all are aware, I was recognized as one of the top 5 advisors in the country. Um, the first African American ever recognized, actually the first minority. In addition to that, I also had a best-selling book that year, and everybody saw me like, "Wow, Felipe's doing his thing," not realizing that there was a long road between then and at and in 2017. There was a long road between me getting to where I needed. And within that, it made me become somebody that I never would have thought that I would become. And that's, to be totally transparent, a very confident person. Somebody that no matter what is going to make sure that hell or high water, that anything that needs to be done, I'm going to do it. And if somebody tells me that they don't believe that I can do something or that it's impossible for me to do so, as many people have alluded to, I always take it as a personal challenge, because you can't tell me that I can't do anything, because if another man has done it, I have done it. And it's the same thing that you're able to do. And as we're going about this night, I want to make sure that I'm engaging with everybody that is watching this live stream, because this isn't about me. This is about you. This is about my friends and my family, strangers, people that are going to be friends. This is about you becoming the best version of yourself at all times without having to worry about what somebody else thinks of you. you thinking that you're not good enough and you not feeling empowered to be the epitome of yourself. When I first got in this industry way back in 1999, I know I look real young, y'all. You know, the gray hairs, I just put the grays on myself, you know. Uh, but way back in 1999, when I first got in this industry, I started out in corporate America. And I didn't know that eventually I would become an advisor. That wasn't my goal. I was just trying to get a job. But one thing my mother always told me was that anytime you get a job, always read the employee handbook. And there was a little known fact with the company that I was working for. And that was the fact that they would pay for your securities license regardless of your position with the company after a year of working there. So I was like, oh, all right. After a year, I'm going to go ahead and take this test. I didn't know how hard the test was. I didn't know. I was just like, it's not my money. Let's do it. So the year came up. I went to HR and told them, hey, I want to go ahead and take this securities exam. And they told me, you don't want to do that because it's extremely difficult. You don't want to embarrass yourself. Now remember, this is my employer telling me this. And what I just tell y'all, you tell me I can't do something. Oh, it's anybody that really knows Felipe Artrindetus Barganier, now senior, knows that you can't tell me no. So they begrudgingly went ahead and paid for me paid for me to take the exam. I went ahead and studied for about 2 months to take it. And that was the toughest 2 months of my life because I was trying to retain everything. But I went ahead and took it, passed on the first time. Typically, when people pass the Series 7 to 66, they would decorate your cubicle and send out all kind of emails, all rah-rah emails. But I was one of the first African-American males, to be totally honest, to challenge them on that. And when I did, they were like, holy I'm not going to say the word. I will keep this a PG live stream for now. I can't promise you what I'm going to do later. I can't promise you. But for right now, it's PG. So your kids can tune in for about 5 minutes because it might get real. But with that, what I realized was that regardless of who you are, where you are, people only see what they see in you, good or bad. And people will often project their own shortcomings onto you. And what you cannot allow anybody to do is to dictate to you what you're capable of based off of their limited beliefs, because most of the time it's a reflection of them. And there's a saying that perception is projection, and basically what that means is that however somebody perceives you is basically them projecting themselves on you. And once you free yourself from that, you will become unstoppable. That's one of the reasons that I also decided to do this live stream and create this podcast, The Business of Your Mind, because a lot of what we have in our mind, it has nothing to do with us. We have things that maybe your parents said, or that a family member said, or friends, or maybe you were the bad kid growing up, or you were the promiscuous teenager, or whatever it is. You had a habit or an addiction. Maybe you've been incarcerated. I've got friends that have been incarcerated. They came out a totally different person. But of course, when their family knows them one way, when their friends know them one way, that's all they're going to see. Even if this person's been gone 5, 10 years, they're still just going to see, oh man, well, yeah, all right. What do you got going on now? I don't know about that. But we all know that people can change. And that was one of the things that I had to realize was that here I was, a 24-year-old African American male in a company where there were only 3 African American males in the company that were on my side of the business, which was basically the corporate side. There were 3 African American males in the mailroom in a company of about 300 people. So I was already an anomaly. And then for me to have the audacity to want to call them on something that's in their employee manual, because I was young. I just thought, hey, I had never really experienced racism to that degree from an employer. So I was like, hey, let me go ahead and not saying that yeah, I am saying that. But it made me realize that I am Felipe Artrindetus Barganier. They don't know me. Their idea of me is maybe what they have seen on television from, or maybe just their interactions, but they don't know me. And when I passed that exam, I started doing research on the kind of money that stockbrokers make. Because once you pass your securities exam, you're able to basically work on Wall Street or wherever you want to, because that's one of the hardest professional licenses for you to get. It has a 20 to 30% pass rate. You understand what I just said? Let me flip that around. 70 to 80% of the people fail this exam. And I passed it on the first try. So that just blew their mind. But once I started doing my research, I was like, all right, I'm about to, even though they, kind of doubted my capabilities, okay, now they know. They know I can do it now. So my thought process at that time was, okay, I wanted to become an external auditor at the company. And basically an external compliance auditor is somebody that goes around the country to different brokerages or different advisors' offices and looks at their offices to make sure that all of their documents and files are in compliance. So I was like, surely, after I showed them how amazing I am, they're going to go ahead and give me a job in compliance. Well, this is how that conversation went. We're glad you passed, but we don't have a position available for you at this time. So, them not knowing that I had already made substantial connections within the firm and with the advisors, it allowed me to contact a lot of the advisors. I was over the Southeast region, and I took off 2 weeks and told all the advisors, hey, the top advisors, hey, I'm coming to see you. Some of these guys were making $20,000, $30,000 a week, just making crazy money. That was my whole paycheck. I was making $28,000 a year. So I'm sitting there going, hold on. I just paid you $20,000 this week. Last week you had a commission check for $30,000, and I'm sitting here barely making $2,000 a month. Crazy. So because I had made such strong relationships with the advisors, I ended up traveling down to Tampa, Gainesville, all over Atlanta, and just meeting with the advisors. Hey, how did you get started? What did you do? what's the magic sauce? And I was working part-time for one of the top advisors in Atlanta, a guy by the name of Brian Brown, Caucasian guy. Him and I were awesome, older guy. And he started telling me that he had million dollar or millionaire clients that work at Walmart, UPS, and the Waffle House. And I was like, what are you talking about? You have million dollar clients that work at Waffle House. Like if you got $1 million, why are you at Waffle House? But basically what he was saying was that these clients of his, he had set them up with the proper financial planning to where they were not concerned about being laid off, but they were still there because they were waiting for retirement. So their retirement was set, is basically what he was saying. And as I visited other advisors, there was one in particular down in Gainesville, Florida, which this is what made me jump. This guy was making $10 million a year. Yes, you heard me right. $10 million a year as a financial advisor in the Gainesville, Florida area. So I went down there, spent some time with him. At that time, I had just gotten married, had a newborn baby, and I was ready to jump. I went home to my then wife and said, babe, I got it. You got me? All right, look, we're going to move in with your mom for about a year because I need to make this jump. And she said, okay, now, if you change your mind, as we're going down, after we jump out of the airplane, I have nothing to do with that. And she did change her mind after we're headed towards the earth, waiting for the parachutes to deploy, which I knew that they were going to deploy at some point. I ain't know when, but I had faith that they were going to deploy at some point. And I'm still here, so we didn't die, and she didn't die either. But I jumped. And it was the greatest thing I ever could have did for myself because it showed me that regardless of where you are and where you come from, that you can do whatever it is you want to put your mind to. But the first thing for you to do is you need to take action. One of the things that the advisor down in Gainesville told me was when he first started his firm, he was from Chicago. He had, I want to say, it was either 4 or 5 kids. He left his wife and kids in Chicago. Now get this. Now, all you visionaries or so-called visionaries out there, you're going to appreciate this. He left his wife and kids in Chicago. He was a priest, stopped being a priest. And now that I think about it, he was a priest. He must have not wanted to be a priest because he ended up having like 4 or 5 kids. So he must wanted to do unpriestly things, which caused him to go down to Florida and decide that he wanted better for his family. This guy ended up telling me that he slept in his office while his kids were in Chicago for 2 years. Now, remember, this guy was making $10 million when I was talking to him, but for him to tell me what he did at first, I was like, whoa. He snuck into the local hospital in Gainesville, stole a pair of scrubs. Yes, stole a pair of scrubs to take showers in the hospital. After he did that, he then, because the doctors kept seeing them in there in these stolen scrubs, they thought he was a physician. And that's how we started getting his clients. Now, how many of you are willing to make that level of sacrifice to make $10 million a year in 5 to 10 years' time. The friends that I have that are millionaires or that are making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year. I've got a few friends that have billions of dollars. All of these guys are just like you and I. And nothing that I've done or that they've done is anything that you can't do. But the thing that you have to do, you have to believe more in yourself than you believe in that job. You have to believe more in yourself than somebody telling you no. You have to believe more in yourself than anybody or anything holding you back. Any doubts you have in your mind, and I'm gonna keep on talking like that for emphasis, in your mind. And if you see me in the streets and you talk about this live stream or podcast, you're going to have to come up to me and go, I like that business of your mind podcast, because what I'm trying to do is to get in between here. A lot of stuff happens in between here. Fear, anxiety, stress, hate, love. It's all in here. Like, whoever told you to be afraid of a snake? You ever had a snake chase you? But you see, when you get scared, right? It can be a non-poisonous snake or whatever kind of snake it is, but you're gonna run because it's a snake. Some people do the same thing with dogs. Some people do the same thing with people. But you can unlearn all of that, especially things like anxiety, where you're becoming anxious because of what you perceive is about to happen. You think the worst instead of thinking the best. Now, imagine if you took it upon yourself to now start thinking positively about anything that you're facing. And I'm not just talking, I actually practice this in my own life. And I'm going to get to that, to a couple of situations where I had to practice this. 2018 probably being the most horrific year of my life, which I'm going to get to a little bit later. But you have to make sure that you are controlling your thoughts. Because one of the things that we often don't realize is that our unconscious mind is controlled by, no, our conscious mind is controlled by our unconscious mind. All those, the anxiety, the fears and all of that, that comes from your subconscious, which is the reason why you start getting heart palpitations, or you will start, thinking that somebody's out to get you, or if you are an insecure person that your spouse is cheating on you, or that sometimes this stuff ain't real. I've been in situations like that where somebody was hell-bent on believing that I was cheating on them, or that I had done something to them. Like, hey, what are you talking about? Like, what? I didn't do nothing. And I used to get so frustrated. I am not cheating on you. I'm not doing anything. But what you got to realize is that a lot of times, and we all know what they say, what did I say earlier? Perception is projection. A lot of times people are projecting what they're doing either to themselves or to you onto you. And once you realize that you will no longer be a victim or a slave to somebody else's self-image of you. And one of the things that I realized once I jumped out of the airplane, me and my ex-wife and our little baby jumped out of the airplane. Hey, we're flying. Oh. Was that even your spouse gonna go, wait a minute, hold on, pump the brakes? But unfortunately with me, I get insane tunnel vision. Like, my vision is crazy when I set my sights on something that I'm going to accomplish. And I want everybody that is listening to this live stream, or if you're listening to it on YouTube, or you listen to it to a download of the podcast, I want you to stop doing one thing immediately. Stop using the word try. And stop using the word but, because the word but, anything you say, you ever had somebody go, oh my God, I just love you, but they just erased everything positive that they could have been about to say when they interjected that but in there, because that but is like a negative. You know that behind that but, I love you, but they aren't going to say, I love you, but I love you more. That's not about to happen. something something crazy is going to come behind that you don't want to hear. So stop using those words unless you want to kill everything that you just said. You do not want to use the word but. And you also don't want to use it with yourself. Because when you do that, you erase whatever you put out there. And I see somebody put, the mind and tongue is powerful. The mind and tongue is the most powerful thing that you can have. Everything that you see before you, whether it's a house, a tree, or everything on this planet, was at some point in time not there. It had to become, especially anything that is man-made. This mic I'm talking on, the Facebook that you're watching this on, or YouTube, or the audio device or the video device that you're listening to this on, this was all created. And once you realize that same creative power is in you, it allows you to become unstoppable. But what do you have to do? First, you have to manifest it in your mind. You have to, it starts with a thought. And then you verbalize that thought. When I was 13 years old, I wrote down all the goals that I wanted to have, that I wanted to accomplish. By the time I was 40 years old, I was 13, y'all. 1-3. I didn't know what a vision board was. I didn't know what any of this stuff was. And I'm going to be totally transparent. It was one of those times, and I'm not going to get too deep into my upbringing, but that's a whole year's worth of podcast and therapy in itself right there, but we ain't going to go there. But my mom had basically told me, and everybody knows my mom passed away 2018. I love my mom to death. We had an amazing relationship during her later years. But as a child, she wasn't the best mom on the planet. Far from it. And she told me something. But I also realized, again, perception is projection. She was actually projecting the image of my dad onto me. So she treated me how she was getting back at my dad through me. So I was 13 years old. My mom had just beat my, yeah. Yeah, she beat it real good over something that I did not do. And I ended up, my spirit just told me, go ahead and write down your goals till age 40. I did not know why, but I did it. Because I was crying hard. You know how you have one of those cries when you're a kid, you got snot bubbles coming out your nose. It's just, oh. I know some of y'all probably never don't know what a spanking is, but I got spankings and I got plenty of them. But I ended up taking, I want to say it's probably about 4 or 5 sheets of paper. And I just started writing down, everything that I wanted to accomplish. One of the things on there that I know was making $1 million by the time I was 40, being married by the time I was 25, having having children by the time I was 30. Being successful, whether that was business or entrepreneurship, uh, by the time I was 30 years old. And there were several other things on there, and everything that I put on that piece of paper, everything I accomplished. Then all of a sudden when I turned 40, I guess because the list was like, hey, you didn't put anything else on here, so we're gonna do your life like this. We're just gonna, just gonna do the wave in your life. And so I had to do another list, but I didn't do it until actually earlier this year, late last year, because my life was on. I felt like it was on cruise control. When I look back at when I left and started doing financial advising, and some of the things that I had to face at that time, I had a wife that she was pseudo supportive. For any of you all out there that have spouses that kind of are somewhat supportive of your dreams, but not really, I was actually told, well, I'm going to support you in this sense. I am going to allow you to do this so that you don't get upset with me, even though you're going to fail. Now, imagine your spouse telling you this. This is supposed to be your ride or die. And she didn't know who she was dealing with. You tell me that, oh, you best believe I'm about to walk on coals, run through walls or whatever to make this work because you're telling me that you don't believe in me. But again, what did I say earlier? Perception is projection. She did not believe in herself. So there's a book that I want everybody to read called The 4 Agreements. The 4 Agreements talks about a lot of the principles that I'm mentioning right now. And what it does is it allows you to start to understand that we are too moved by people that are projecting all day long their shortcomings on us. If people don't believe in themselves, and how often do we go to our friends, we go to our family, we go to associates that aren't making any money, tell them our brilliant idea, and they go, oh, that'll never work. Oh, you can't do that. No, what they're saying is they can't do that. And I personally have several ideas that I kick myself for every day that I did not launch over the course of my life. And now there are people making millions. One of them is a grocery delivery concept that I developed in 1996 that looks just like Instacart. And I've got friends that will back up everything that I'm saying. Another concept that was basically Netflix when they were delivering DVDs in 1998, because I just always had a knack for business. So now I don't want to see anybody else do that. I have a vision and a heart for you. If you're listening to this, I have a passion for you to see you win. And whatever I can do within my power, I want to do to make sure that the last thing that you are worried about is somebody holding you back, projecting their poor self-image of themselves onto you, and you allowing them to run your life because of their limiting beliefs about themselves. So I'm going to go back to the parachute and us jumping out of this plane. So another thing that because I don't want to be in a lot of pain. So in order for you to do that, once you jump out of that plane, jump out of that job, jump out of whatever you're doing, jump out of being lazy and take action, I want you to focus so hard on that goal that you can't see nothing else but that. And what I mean is that whatever it is, take that image, put it in your mind. I don't care how crazy it is, because everybody thought I was crazy. You leaving a good job at corporate America? Oh my goodness. Why are you doing that, brother? Well, I look back now like I'm glad I did it. Why didn't you? And I've had friends join my company, and hopefully some of them will watch this live stream, or listen to the podcast, and they will co-sign everything I'm saying. I went to them, hey, look, the first person I went to was my wife at the time, and said, look, sweetie, look, baby. All I need is 3 years. I got us. I just need for you to believe in me for 3 years. And I know a lot of women have been burnt by guys saying stuff like this, but first you got to check the source material. Is he doing everything that he needs to do? And is it something that makes sense? Is he a 50-year-old that's still trying to do rap music? Or does he have a legitimate goal? Is he in real estate? Is he trying to do something that's real? Not saying that, not that somebody's goal of being a rapper or athlete is, but all those things have a short shelf life. But if somebody's coming to you with passion and putting everything, which I was doing, I was putting everything on the line. Everything. I let a car get repoed. This is how much I believed in my vision. I didn't want my wife losing anything, but I was willing to lose everything as long as it did not impact my wife or my child. I started riding the bus to meetings. I would be in a suit. And anybody who's seen me in business, y'all know I love a nice suit. I would be in a suit. I had some snakeskin shoes that I wore till the heels fell off. And I would be going on an appointment in the rain. Now imagine this. You got a man, and back then I used to love wearing vests. So I would have on a 3-piece suit, vest on, all, and I'm coming into your office soaked and wet because I did not have a car. I would close those deals because people were like, man, you must really believe in what you're doing because you don't have a car. I'm like, nah, like I didn't tell him I let my car get repoed. I was like, nah, because we did have 2 cars, but we want to get into that. My wife wasn't working. That's gonna be on the drinking episode of this for me to even talk about that. We're going to call that one the business of Hennessy. That's going to be the Hennessy hour. Who all put a heart in the comment if you want to see the Hennessy hour. We'll make sure that becomes one of these business of your mind podcasts. But yeah, I'm loving the chats. I'm loving the chat. So I appreciate you all. But you have to be willing to do things that are going to make you uncomfortable, but that are going to make you comfortable in the long run. One of the key drivers of my success was the fact that I did have a young son and I was newly married. And my father, I didn't know my father. I thought my father was deceased until I was 21 years old. And that's a whole nother story. But when I realized that working in corporate America, that was a dead end. Also, it would keep me from being able to spend as much time with my son, coaching his teams, going to his games, and just being there. I wanted to be an active dad. I didn't want to be the dad that was like, I come home, oh, you won the game today? Oh, okay. All right. No, I wanted to be at the game. I wanted to coach the team. I wanted to be as active as I could in my children's lives. And I knew that I couldn't do that working for somebody else. Now, if you like working, that's hey. But this podcast is the business of your mind. We gonna get your mind straight so you can get your business straight. So then you can go ahead and mind your own business. That's a whole nother podcast. And I'm telling you, once you are firm in your belief in yourself, nobody can stop you. Nobody can stop you. And within 2 months of me leaving corporate America, I ended up getting a spot doing a financial planning hour on 97.5. And if you live in Atlanta, Georgia, 97.5, this was back in 2001, 2002. It was a gospel channel at the time. I was on the air with Larry Young from 8 to 9 o'clock. And if you know anything about radio, that's prime time. Yeah, this little boy from Atlanta, Georgia, from Douglas High School, was on the radio at the age of 24 years old talking about financial planning and had only been a financial advisor for a little over 2 months. Now, the firm that I represented, and I won't name their name either, but if you know me, you know the name of this firm as well. This particular firm, I ended up meeting the station manager of this firm, of the radio station at a funeral/wake that my ex-wife's aunt had. My ex-wife's aunt passed away, and she was previously married to the station manager of 97.5 at the time, and his name was Larry Young. If you know anything about Larry Young, he's big in gospel here. So he had sang at her wake, and I ended up seeing him maybe a day or two later at Save Right. If y'all remember Save Right, if you remember Save Right, go ahead and put it in the chat. Save Right in the house. But I ended up seeing him at Save Right and just went up and said, "Hey, man, that was an awesome job that you did. That was an awesome job you did singing at her wake. And I just wanted to thank you, man." And then I asked him, I said, "Hey, also, how do I go about advertising on your station?" So, and this is about to show you how God works in my life. And remember that tunnel vision. That tunnel vision is very important. And the reason that the tunnel vision is so important is because what it allows you to do is, what you don't realize is that the universe wants you to win. Your unconscious mind a lot of times don't want you to win until you reprogram it. But the universe will always conspire for your good as long as you allow it to. So by you focusing, being laser focused on that end goal, the universe is bringing you all the resources, all the ingredients, everything that you need is going to come to you. You just have to stay the course. That's the reason why if you are dependent with whatever your religion is, there are all kind of things that tell you how to act. And faith is a big one. Just continue to operate in faith. And basically what that faith means is that you're believing in the unseen before it's seen. So I ended up calling him, Larry Young, and saying, "Hey man, I just want to meet with you." He ended up inviting me to 97.5, and I ended up meeting him. And I swear, my recollection of the room now is that it was a dark room, and there were angels in the room, and there was a beam of light on him and a beam of light on me. That's just the way I could, because it was just a miraculous meeting. So he goes, "Felipe, how can I help you?" I said, "Man, I just wanted to thank you for hooking me up with the program manager that was the marketing manager. I'm up here about to meet with them about some ads." Then he goes, "No, Felipe, I need you on my show. My spirit is telling me that you are a financial minister." I was 24 years old. I ain't know what in the HE double hockey sticks a financial minister was. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, a minister is somebody that's in the pulpit. You talking about church? Like, what are you talking about? But we all have our own ministries. Regardless of what you do, if you're working at McDonald's, that's your ministry. It can be your ministry. Make it your best. Do your best in anything that you do. So he goes, "I want you on my radio show." Now, remember, I had only been a financial advisor for 2 months. Uno, dos. And if anybody knows about the imposter syndrome is like, you're like, holy shucky-ducky. They want me to talk to everybody in Atlanta. And at that time, they had a large audience because it was like the only gospel station on the FM dial. And I was like, they just invited me on the radio. So I went back to my firm, which I said will remain nameless unless you know me, then you know who it is. And some of my fellow advisors are on my Facebook page, so they're gonna know, and they can vouch for this story. So went back to my firm. Now the firm had been trying to get on the radio for about 50 years. I managed to do that with the universe conspiring to help me in a matter of 2 months. Didn't plan for it. So I went back to the managing partner of the firm and said, "Hey, I'm all happy. Man, they want me on the radio, man. They want me on the radio. Oh, this is going to be amazing, man. Like, I am so excited." Their words back to me were, "That's fine, but you have to take 5 other advisors with you. They can't mention your name. They have to mention our firm's name, because this is about the firm, not about you." And I was like, okay. I'll go tell the station that. So I ended up calling Larry, and Larry goes, "Felipe, I don't care what they said. We're only inviting you on this show. They can tell you what to say, but they can't tell me what to say. So I'm going to introduce you to the city of Atlanta as the financial minister, Felipe Barganier." And I was like, okay, let's do it. Ended up going on the show. While I was on the show, we got so many phone calls. People were calling the show crying, because if you listen to most FM stations, especially in the African American community, You don't hear people talking about financial planning. You hear people talking about debt consolidation, credit repair, bankruptcy, but ain't nobody on there telling you how not to get in trouble, how not to get in debt, how to invest your money properly. So, ended up putting my phone number to the firm on the radio, and once I got back to the firm, they got so many phone calls, and this is what y'all about to see is the reason why I started this podcast, the reason why I started this live stream, because I want you all to know the real story and how much perseverance you have in you because I have it in me. Went back to the firm. We got so many phone calls that the phone lines got fried. All the phone lines went down. The circuit board got fried. And when they brought the phone system back up, guess whose phone number and extension was off? Mine's. They told me they did not think that I could handle the number of phone calls that was coming in. So they decided to give my advisor, my prospects or my prospective clients to other people in the firm that they felt like could handle it. So here I am on 100, on cloud nine, having reached what I felt like was, I am here, yes, to wow, to being deflated. And that day, I left that firm. Didn't know what I was going to do. They were paying me a base of $2,000 a month. And during that time, I did all kinds of things. I swept behind Lowe's. I did whatever I could do to make money because I had a family. And I was like, God, like what happened? Like, man, you brought me here to bring me here? Like I'm lost. Like I had never experienced that before. I'm like, what? Hey, time out. Hey, hold on, wait a minute. Hold on. Who is writing this script? Who is writing this script? Because this was not, I did not know that this was a horror story or a action movie. I thought this was a love story. I thought you loved me. But I didn't stop. Like I said, I swept behind Lowe's. I took odd jobs. I did anything because I wasn't going back to corporate America. Because they told me that once you fail, we got your job waiting on you. And the last thing I was going to do was go back to a company that had already basically told me I was going to fail. And even if I had to go to McDonald's and become the best fry cook on the planet, that's what I would have done. So fast forward, I'm sweeping behind Lowe's and doing out. And to that point also, you know, people talk about not burning bridges and all the rest of that stuff. I blow up bridges because I believe that all a bridge is a safe way back to what you're comfortable doing. And I don't believe in doing anything that's comfortable. So I'm going to blow your bridge up, Mr. Employer, because I ain't coming back. You ain't the only employer out here. So I blow up bridges. I try not to blow up bridges when it comes to people, but I blow up some of them bridges too because some people just don't need to be in your life. That's a whole nother podcast. But so, and this is how God works, because God will always give you signs and symbols and things for you to see. So that way you can understand what it is or who's in control. The universe will always let you know by showing you, by illuminating the path. That might not be where you want the path. Like, man, why I gotta go over there to get over? Look, don't ask no questions. Just move. So at that time, I also had become the financial advisor for Gospel Tabernacle. If y'all remember Wiley Jackson, I was their financial advisor for the church. So that was one of, so what God was doing was that he kept showing me his people. He kept going first gospel radio, first Gospel Tabernacle, first. He just kept putting me in front so that, because at that point in time, I was extremely churchy. If that's a word. And if it's not, I'm going to ask Webster to put it in today. So he kept putting things in front of me so that way he'll know, look, I'm in control. I got you. But look, you think this it? No, you playing too small. This ain't it. This ain't it at all. So lo and behold, I ended up meeting this guy that was a broker. He was enrolled in the city schools of Decatur. He needed some help doing the employee benefits enrollment. And at that time, I was 25, 26-ish. And I made like $2,000 in 2 days. And I was like, what in the world? I feel like I was selling drugs. I was like, wait a minute, hold on, wait. Oh, hold on. How did I make this kind of money in 2 days doing that? And that's how I got in the employee benefit business. Did that within the first 6 months of being in, of basically not really doing a lot of advising. Started focusing more on companies. Within the first 6 months, I ended up getting the largest account in the state of Georgia for the company I was with, which was the Georgia prison system. Had them for 15 years, 13,000 employees. Any of my advisor friends that are watching this, that's how I got that account. Ended up getting in the Department of Juvenile Justice. DFACS, child support, had over 50,000 clients in the state of Georgia. And was making a lot of money. Was a ball in everything I told my baby back then came true. But the marriage became unglued, because what you got to be mindful of is that this is your vision. That person that you're with, if they don't believe in you, or if they don't at least hold on to you and help enforce your vision, you will end up in two totally different places at the end, which is the problem of a visionary. When your vision is so profound, look at Jeff Bezos. You would think that this man is, his company's worth over $1 trillion, that him and his wife would be cool. But I'm pretty sure that there was a lot of things that transpired in that house, because anybody that has ever made $100,000 for yourself, if you've ever made $200,000 for yourself, $300,000, $1 million for yourself, you think you want to make $100,000. But I'm going to tell you now, once you hit that 6-figure mark, or once you hit any level that is above and beyond what you need, it takes way more for you to continue to move. It has to become more than just about money. It has to become more than just about, because now you can pay all your bills. You can do whatever you need to do in your life. And what happened with me was I was making all this money, and I had to decide where and what is most important to me. I had to make this bigger than me. So I had to start hiring people. It took me 5 years to do that. It took me 5 years to get to where it took me 4 years to get to $100,000. It took me 5 years to get to 175. And then for 13, 14 years, it was just growing. We had double-digit growth every year. Through the 2008 recession, I didn't feel it. Zero. And it's because of decisions that I made. So the purpose of me mentioning that is because that tunnel vision will carry you much further ahead, but you got to make sure your spouse is there with you. But I'm gonna say this: don't let your spouse hold you back. Make sure you choose wisely. Make sure that you choose somebody that's a true teammate, somebody that is conspiring to help you win, not conspiring to help you lose. Because I'm gonna tell you, it is hard as HE double hockey sticks to be with somebody that does not believe in what you're doing. And every time you go home, they think you're cheating. They think this. And it's like, you're like, do you know how much energy it takes for me to do what I'm doing? Like for me to come home to this, like, and then at some point y'all gonna have to go to counseling or do something that's gonna allow you all to get on the same page, hopefully. But unfortunately for me, that didn't happen, so we ended up getting a divorce. But I ended up, doing substantial work, helping a lot of people. I still have clients from the prison system. When I first started, they used to call me Superman in the prison system because they were like, man, don't nobody come in here like you, because I believe in y'all. Like when I first got to prison, even though I had 13,000 employees, that took work. I told God when I first started, I was like, hey, it's 13,000 people. All I need is $2,000 a month. That was my budget. That's all I needed. And he always supplied. So for like the first probably 6 or 12 months, I ain't make a lot of money in there. I was making $2,000 here, $3,000, $2,000, $3,000, $2,000, $1,500, $2,000, $3,000. But my bills were always paid. But I was like, all I need is somebody in here to buy one of these policies from me. And like clockwork, somebody will buy a disability policy or an accident policy or whatever kind of policy I was selling at the time, and they will end up using it. And the best testimony is somebody that's done use your product. They end up using it. I remember one lady, she was like, I am so glad that you talked me into getting that accident policy. I talked her into it now. That you talked me into getting this accident policy on my husband, because he was in a motorcycle accident. He hit a deer on a motorcycle. Now imagine that. Oof. He had to be airlifted clear across Georgia, from Macon, Georgia to Augusta, Georgia, which is about 2 hours. But she was able to take off of work for 9 months because of that. That testimony, and you need to get testimonies from your clients. That testimony led that one prison, I knew every time I was going to go down there, I was going to make $4,000 to $6,000 that week. That week, I was only working 3 days, and that started happening at that prison, at another prison, at different prisons. And then we started doing the same thing in juvenile, and I started hiring people. And what I'm gonna tell you, anybody that's afraid of hiring anybody, I doubled and tripled and quadrupled my income when I started hiring people. I know it's scary because nobody's going to work like you and everything else, but there's something that happens. And anybody that has ever hired anybody, you probably know what I'm talking about. That there's something magical that happens when you start hiring employees, especially when you're doing it with the right intention. So for, like I said, from 2003 to 2018, We were rocking and rolling. We were just going and 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 going. Went through a divorce and I was still going and going and going and going and going and going and going. The divorce was hard, but I was still going and going and going and going and going and going and going. Got divorced in 2010. Still going and going and going. Floor seats at the Hawks game. Flying everywhere, doing what I wanted to do. Spending 2 months in St. Thomas. Three weeks in Puerto Rico. Just leaving. Just doing what I felt like doing. Just gone. Because my team was working. They believed in what we were doing. Then fast forward 2016, we were recognized as the #1 minority-owned agency in the state of Georgia. 2017, I was recognized as one of the top 5 advisors in the country. I also had a best-selling book, Breaking Through the Status Quo. I have it conveniently placed behind me. Yes, shameless advertising and plug. So 2017, I got invited to China. Was doing some work over there, which was supposed to stop the whole pandemic. It was basically for us not to be where we are now. Went over there, had a phenomenal time. As I was leaving, President Trump was coming in. That's when the whole trade war started. So that put the brakes on what I had going. Fast forward to January of that year. Ended up filing for a divorce of my then second wife. May of 2018, I get called back to China for some more meetings. While I'm in China, I call home. My mother's watching my son. My mother is doing very bad. When I left her, she was in phenomenal condition. At least I thought she was. When I ended up talking to my mom, she told me that she had not eaten all day long and that she had not moved all day long. At that time, my son was 2 years old. And I heard the worst words that you could ever hear from a parent. And that was, if I don't make it, tell everybody that I love them. She had obviously had a stroke or something while she was at the house. So I had to coordinate her care while I was in China. China's, they're on the other side of the planet. While I was in China on May 23rd, I got a notice from the Department of Corrections, the state prison system, that you can no longer come into the prison system. That was 80% of my company's income or revenue. I get home on May 23rd. Oh, May 24th. My mother was staying at my home. She was watching my place while I was gone. She opens the door. She does not even recognize who I am. She had obviously had several strokes while I was there, while I was in China and while she was in my home. Ended up having to take her to the hospital, my sister and I. May 25th, my birthday is May 25th. That's the last time I heard my mother's voice. She ended up dying 2 days later. So from January of 2018 to May of 2018, I experienced 3 of the worst traumas you can ever experience in your life. A divorce, a highly contentious divorce, by the way. A loss of income and the death of a family member, my mom. You want to talk about the business of your mind and me having to do a lot of soul searching? I had to do a lot. There were times that I'm going to be real with y'all. I ain't want to be here. It was too much. I mean, imagine you losing your mom you losing pretty much all of your money because I don't care if you're making $20,000 a year and you lose 80% of that. What is that? That's a lot of money. So I had to do a lot of digging. What is it that I want to do? Why am I here? I did a lot of reading, because before then, I was the guy that knew that, hey, look, I'm going to just ride this wave on forever. It's just going to keep on going. But God knew I was playing small. He knew I was playing real small because I got uncomfortable. I had, I've been recognized as one of the best in my industry. I've been making money, blah, blah, blah. But I wasn't using it. I wasn't using all my talents. So in 2018, I had to get to know who Felipe was. Felipe was not the cars, the house, the trips, the woman, the suits. That ain't Felipe. Who is Felipe? And what I realized was that I had a lot of sugar honey iced tea that was messing with my mind that I had to fix. And once I started fixing that, I never had a confidence issue. But what I did have is things that might not have allowed me to be as punctual as I needed to be because, hey, I'm Felipe. Or procrastination was a problem. Oh, I'll get to it late. I get to it later because I've always been able to grasp things fast. And I had to really, really dig deep, do things that were uncomfortable for me, really check myself, realize that regardless of my mom not being here, I'm losing all this money, I'm going through this crazy divorce. I had to learn how to project what I wanted into my life. And what I mean by that is that we ended up having to go to court a couple of times. And I had to learn how, don't get anxious about getting to court. Get excited about going to court because you're going to be victorious. You're going to win. You don't have to worry about this. So I stopped being anxious. I stopped stressing and started living and started taking control of my life. My life wasn't about the money. My life was not about the women. My life was not about the things. My life was not about the trips. My life was about making sure that I am calm on the inside. Because if you're broken on the inside, who gives a rat's what you look like on the outside if you jacked up on the inside? And I mentioned earlier, my mother had done some stuff to me. Like she had said some crazy stuff. My mother told me at one time that all I would ever be is a garbage man. My mama, Momma, Mines. My dad, I've only spoken to him one time that I can remember. And that was when I found out that he was still living because I thought my mother had tried to hide him from me. This man does not want anything to do with me. So at this point in time in my life, I'm out here, it's me and my kids. And I'm winning. You can win. Don't let anything hold you back. This is why I started this live streaming podcast. Because there is nothing that you have been through. There is nothing that you are going through. There is nobody around you that can have any type of profound impact on you more than yourself. As long as you believe in yourself, you will become unstoppable. So I invite you all to watch the next podcast, next live stream, and we're going to get to work. I appreciate you all, and I love you all.